So now, we are done discussing the laws of exponents involving positive integral exponents. Ngayon, didiscuss naman natin kung ano ang meron kay zero exponents. Ano nga ba ang mangyayari sa isang term when that term is raised to zero? Kanina, na-discuss natin, ayon sa quotient rule, that if a raised to m divided by a raised to n, that is equal to a raised to m minus n, given that a is not equal to 0, m and n are greater than 0, and m is greater than n. Suppose that this law or this rule holds true even if m is equal to n. A raised to m over a raised to m, that is a raised to m minus m. And m minus m is equal to 0. So this is equal to a raised to 0. But, anong napapansin nyo kay a raised to m all over a raised to m? Okay. When we are dividing a number by itself, that is always equal to what? 1. Very good. So, if a raised to m divided by a raised to m is equal to 1, and a raised to m over a raised to m is equal to a raised to 0, then therefore, a raised to 0 is equal to 1. So from this, we can conclude that in raising a number to 0, that is always equal to 1. So for example, let's have x squared divided by x squared. So this is equivalent to x raised to 2 minus 2, x raised to 0, that is equal to 1. Kaya lang, hindi sa lahat ng pagkakataon na sa isang expression may naka-x raised to 0, lahat na yon ay equal to 1. Hindi ganun yon. Huwag nating i-assume na sa bawat item na merong naka-raise sa 0, ang sagot ay 1. Merong mga pagkakataon na kagaya nito, 2s raised to 0. This is a term na merong dalawang factor. At kung mapapansin natin, alin lamang ang naka-raise sa 0? Yung s lang. Meron tayong constant na nakahiwalay. At since siya ay constant, saan siya naka-raise? Sa 1. Very good. So, ibig sabihin, this is equivalent to 2 times s raised to 0, which is equal to 1. Therefore, the answer is 2. So, now that we are done with zero exponents, i-discuss naman natin kung anong meron kay negative exponents. So, ayon kay quotient rule, a raised to m over a raised to n is equal to a raised to m minus n, given that a is not equal to 0 and m is greater than n. Now, let us assume that this rule also holds true if m is less than n. Kung m is less than n, pwede natin siyang isulat as a raised to 0 over a raised to n, equal to a raised to 0 minus n, that is a raised to negative n. At kung mapapansin ninyo, ang rational expression na ito, meron tayong isang pwedeng i-simplify, and that is the numerator. So, ang numerator natin ay pwede nating i-rewrite as 1 and then over a raised to n. So, if a raised to 0 over a raised to n is equivalent to 1 over a raised to n, and a raised to 0 over a raised to n is also equal to a raised to negative n, therefore, 1 over a raised to n is equal to a raised to negative n. So, since a raised to negative n equals 1 over a raised to n, and a raised to n is equal to 1 over a raised to negative n, given that a is not equal to 0, we can say that a raised to n is the reciprocal of a raised to negative n. So, for example, we have x raised to negative 3, that is equal to 1 over x raised to 3. However, may mga example tayo kagaya ng nasa inyong module, which is 5y raised to negative 2. Kung mapapansin natin, ito ay isang term na mayroong dalawang factor at isa sa mga factors na yun lamang ang naka-raise sa negative number. So, sa mga ganitong pagkakataon, mariretain natin si 5 since 5 is a constant that is raised to 1. So, ibig sabihin that's 5 multiplied by the reciprocal of y, which is 1 over y squared. Ang isa pang kalituhan under ng negative exponent ay kapag negative ang term. You should always remember, it is the sign of the exponents that changes, not the sign of the base. One example ay negative b raised to negative 2. Negative ang ating term, and then negative ang ating exponent. Kapag kinuha natin ang reciprocal ng ating term, this will become negative 1 over b squared. Kung mapapansin ninyo, hindi natin pinalitan ang sign ng term. Ang pinalitan lang natin ay yung sign ng exponent. Maliwanag? Now that we know the definition of negative integral exponents, we will further apply the negative exponents to rational expressions and express them with positive exponents. So we will apply the definition of negative exponents or negative integral exponents and the laws of exponents for power of a quotient rule. So let's have a rational expression a over b raised to negative m. So for us to express this with positive exponents, let us use the power of a quotient rule. We have a raised to negative m all over b raised to negative m. And since ang numerator at denominator natin ay parehas na may negative exponents, gagamitin natin ang definition ng negative integral exponents. So, the reciprocal of a raised to negative m is 1 over a raised to m divided by the reciprocal of b raised to negative m, which is b raised to m. Since ang denominator ay pinalitan natin with its reciprocal, ibig sabihin, mababago ang ating operation. This will become multiplication. So, this will be multiplied by b raised to m all over 1. Simply, that is b raised to m all over a raised to m. We can also rewrite this as b over a quantity raised to m. Now, anong mapapansin niyo sa original rational expression na ito at sa bagong rational expression? So, from this, ibig sabihin, we can move exponential factors in a rational expression from the numerator to the denominator or vice versa by changing their exponents. So, simply, if a and b are non-zero real numbers, a over b, quantity raised to negative m, is equivalent to b over a, quantity raised to m. Now, we can conclude that the laws of exponents are extended to zero and negative exponents. So, this ends our topic for today. I hope you were able to understand or to further understand the lesson by watching this video. And if you have any questions, pwede niyo yang ipunin at aking sasagutin or sasagutin natin yan during our synchronous meetings. So stay safe and continue to think, wonder, and explore.